We help realtors build investant-client relationships. We've shifted towards putting a lot of effort into relationships with realtors like yourselves because we find that oftentimes some of our very best clients come from those relationships. They are individuals who already understand the value of working with a professional. We've learned a lot the hard way, and we've learned a lot by also working with individuals that have been doing it a lot longer than we had. Either if you haven't worked with investors before, or if you're fairly new at it and you're like, I think I like this and I'd like to do more of it. How do I jumpstart this? This is the Navigate Investor Collective. Thank you for coming. We help realtors build investant-client relationships. We have been in real estate for me over 10 years, Ernesto, since he was a young child. His grandfather owned brownstones in New York City, and he used to go door to door with his mom back in the day before Venmo. She was a super and she'd get rent. And he was like probably about 8 years old where one day he said, hold on. Why do they give us money? And she said, well, Grandpa owns the brownstone, and so in order to live here, they give him money to live here. And ever since then, he was like, I'd like to do that, please. Yeah. And so he kind of had that track of thinking all through his life that someday I want to do what my grandpa did. And so moved out here to Texas, really started getting involved in real estate for himself. And then about 7 years ago, we started what is now Navigate Property Management Company. It's been a huge blessing, and we've gotten to work with a lot of investors and continued to get to do some real estate. However, 3 or 4 years shifted towards putting a lot of effort into relationships with realtors like yourselves because we find that oftentimes some of our very best clients come from those relationships. They are individuals who already understand the value of working with a professional. That was kind of the birth of Navigate Property Management Company, along with being able to manage some of our own properties and learn a lot and say, hey, we're pretty good at this. Like, I wonder if there's other people we could serve in what we're doing. And then as far as investment experience goes, certainly that's always the question, right? Like, why should I talk to you? Why should I listen to you? Together, Ernesto and I have managed over $500 million, yeah, we need a little dollar sign there, in real estate transactions and over 2,500 investor relationships. We've learned a lot the hard way, and we've learned a lot by also working with individuals that have been doing it a lot longer than we had. Ultimately, we're both service-minded individuals. We love sharing. We really lean on relationship for everything that we've done in the past and everything that we want to do in the future. That's why we're here. We want to help you guys learn and grow and be able to work with more investors. Make sure you grab our QR code. You can follow our property management show on YouTube, where you can follow and kind of learn more about where we're at, what we're doing. And then ultimately, really, again, it's just education, sharing a lot from what we know. We interview a lot of our investor clients. We'll interview real estate agents from time to time. One of the things that I like to lean on is that relationship is the connective tissue of an investor client. Who knows what a connective tissue is? Anybody? What's a connective tissue?
Connective tissue is what holds everything together.
It holds it all together. Yeah.
Tendons, ligaments.
There you go. Tendons, ligaments, all those things, right?
Collagen in your skin.
Yes, and we need more of it, right? Your connective tissue is what essentially allows you to keep moving around and doing what you do. And especially when it comes to investors. It's not kind of a one-time every 5 to 6 years. This is something that if you do it right, you're talking about 2, 3, 5, 10 transactions every single year. You could be 3 client realtor and be top 1%. That's the reality. If you know how to build those relationships with investors. And Mama Jude's, that's my little nickname. Picked that up actually at my very first sales job when I was barely a mama. I had 1 kid at that point. I've had 5 now.
Ow.
Thank you very much. But at my very first sales job, I started working with different teams, traveling with them, and inevitably it was like, I need this, I want this. Judy knows somebody, Judy cannot, and so they started calling me Mama Jude's. I'm like, yeah, ask Mama Jude's. I'm like, I'm here, how can I help you? And then we have Ernesto, Lord Ernesto, not like the Lord, but like landlord. We had to explain that a while back. He's been a landlord for quite a while. He grew up as one. One of the things that he says consistently is the outcome of your potential client interactions are determined by the start of your relationship. What we're gonna go through today is just the very start of a foundational program that we have for realtors that kind of helps you establish, okay, how can I be confident that when I go into the start of a relationship with an investor, or even when you're kind of trying to like hopefully attract that investor, you're doing it in a way that it's going to produce what you want. We have the Navigate Group, which is our overriding real estate company. We have the Navigate Brokerage, we have the Navigate Collective, we've got some other investments and things like that. But overall, the Navigate Group, we have three major goals. The first is to attract landlords and aspiring landlords who align with our values and property management services. The second is to teach realtors how to build investor-client relationships. The reality is there's only so much that one person can do. And like I said, we found that some of the very best clients that we still have, that we've ever had, come to us through realtors because you guys are the ones that are out there hitting the streets day in and day out and really cultivating those relationships with clients so that when they come over to work with us or any other vendor, they already are used to working with someone who's excellent and provides them a service that they're actually understanding the value for. Then finally, to create a place to document and share the best practices of Navigate as we grow into the Texas Triangle. And we would love for you guys to be part of that by following us and watching us as we grow. Who knows what the Texas Triangle is?
Is it Austin, Houston, Dallas?
Close. It's San Antonio, Dallas, Houston. Yep. So that's the Texas Triangle, and JPAR just made perfect sense. We do work with quite a few other brokerages already, and we finally got to get in with JPAR, which just like tickled me pink. You guys know Jenna and Rebecca that are usually in this office? Yeah. Jenna Harris. Yeah, and Rebecca Cox. Yes. They were one of my very first teams I ever got to be a part of in real estate way before they were here with JPAR. So I love those women, and they are a wealth of knowledge for investment real estate. There are times I'll still text Jenna and be like, so this is going on with one of our clients. You got any, I don't know what to tell them, and their agent has no clue. And she'll be like, yes, back in maybe 2019. And I'm like, I knew you'd know. She's fantastic. We want to document what's going on and also be able to share our best practices because, like we've been saying, property management can be a very hit or miss. There's a lot of property management companies out there, but there are only really a handful of those that are good and are going to really protect your investment and then also protect you as the realtor. One of our promises to you guys is that whenever you send us a client, we will always send them back to you for buying and selling. And we want to continue to support your life cycle and what you're doing, and we value your referral and your client very much. That's one of our promises to you, that we'll keep your name in our system, and we always send your clients back to buy and sell. We're going to go through 3 things today, which are the first part of our foundations class. And this is really geared towards either if you haven't worked with investors before, or if you're fairly new at it and you're like, I think I like this and I'd like to do more of it. How do I jumpstart this? The first thing we're going to talk about is finding your identity. Hopefully these investors are going to ask, who are you? And why should I do business with you? The second thing, find and lean on your strengths. Go team go. That question mark is on purpose, but we want to help you narrow in on what your strengths are and figure out who your team may be, which finally would be under supplement your weaknesses. Take your vitamins, as Ernesto says. When it comes to being able to offer the best service to an investor, you're going to have yourself, and you're also going to want to have a really good team so that you can keep moving with that investor and they're not just looking to you for every single part of that investment process, because that can get exhausting. So number 1, find your identity. Who you are, what do you offer, where you are, own your pitch. Who in real estate has ever been told fake it till you make it? People say that, right? Don't do it with investors because you'll burn a bridge. A lot of investors know each other. They know their title companies. They know other real estate agents. And they hang out together. And it can be really tough if you start faking it in investment real estate to really ever make it. You need to know who you are. If you are newer in investment real estate, you don't have to say that. Please don't say that. But you do need to tell them what value you bring to them. Okay? So you don't have to garble up, I'm new with investment real estate, but I'm really just hoping to find someone I can work with and I'll learn with you and I'll grow with you. Don't do that. You want to say, I've been in real estate for quite a few years. I've done quite a few transactions. I'm saying quite a few, whatever your number is, okay? You're going to fill in the blanks for who you are already, and then you're going to be able to tell them the value that you can bring to them. Which means if you really don't know anything about investment real estate first, you're going to have to go learn a little something so that you do have some value that you can speak and then hopefully eventually show them. And that's part of what these classes are for. Let's learn enough about investment real estate and help you create a team around you so that when you tell an investor you can help them, you really can. Second, what do you offer? Who you are goes right along with what you offer. Who you are is really more about kind of your service side, what you're able to bring as far as even like character and integrity, which is a really big deal when you're working with an investor who is going to be trusting you with money, not because they like the house and it's near their kids' school and everything else. It's like, I'm trying to put down some roots with this, or flip it and take that money and do something else with it. So integrity is important. Second is, what do you offer? What are the strengths that you do have? What is the experience that you have? And then where you are, especially when you're first starting out with investment real estate. I would always recommend choosing a county, several cities, something that you're already familiar with. If an investor that you're starting to work with says, I've really been wanting to maybe look down to the Benbrook area. I hear that's great. But like me, I'm a Collin County chick. Now I know about that area because of my previous years in investment real estate, but I haven't done a whole lot down there lately. So you know what I would do? I would tell them, I used to do a lot of work in Benbrook. I don't so much anymore. But I have a really good friend in real estate. Her name is Jenna Harris. She actually lives in Benbrook, and she is an investor fanatic. I'm going to reach out to her, and I'll figure out what you need to know. So even if it's something that you don't offer, you can let that potential client know that I can get what you need from someplace else. So all that to say, our recommendation is always to stick with what you do know for the first maybe year or two, honestly, if you can, unless you just go full force and you're just like, I'm gonna take over all of North Texas. Stick with what you know, because when you're working with an investor, they're gonna be interested in things that are different than your typical client. What developments are coming up? How many people are moving into this area? If I bought this beater house for $150,000, do we see any potential that 3 years from now, I could turn around and just sell it for lot value at $500? Those are the types of things that investors are thinking of. And if you're familiar with your area and you're really good with what's going on, you're going to be able to help direct them there. The other thing is, and this is an Ernesto line, he always says, if you can't get there in 20 minutes, you shouldn't be trying to sell it, at least to an investor. Because a lot of times, if there's a house that fits their criteria and it's something that you want to be able to represent for them well, like, you got to get there. So if you live up in Frisco like me and I have an investor who's searching for properties over here in Fort Worth, I'm probably not going to be the best person for them. There's probably somebody else that's going to be able to serve them better. And there's probably another client closer to where I may live that I could also serve better. Just keep that in mind. And then finally, own your pitch. Who has a great pitch as a real estate agent right now?
So, those of you who don't know, I'm all about new construction. Not all agents are the same. I'm specialized, certified in new construction.
There you go. Very good. Specialized, certified in new construction. Anybody else?
One of the things that I can tell them is I can walk a property and come within $5,000 of what it'll cost to rehab it.
There you go. That's a good pitch, especially for an investor. That's a strength of yours. That's something that you could do really well. I have a little example of one. An example of quick pitch would be, I help investors find more real estate deals. Ideally, especially if you're out mingling and looking for a new client that you may be working with, you want your pitch to be something that initiates a question. If I tell you, Ebony, I help investors find more real estate deals, what are you probably going to ask me?
How do you do that?
There you go. Yes, exactly. How? And then you can start to speak to your strengths. Well, I specialize in new builds. Actually, new builds are an investment thing too, if you guys don't know. I specialize in helping investors purchase new builds that are sitting. I go in and I'm able to negotiate with the sales office. And if you can close quickly, we can start building a new build portfolio for you. That's one example. It's not as typical. One of the other things you can say is, I help investors find more real estate deals. I'm on probably 200 wholesale lists. I see between 50 and 75 properties a day. And if I know what you're looking for, we can start to narrow it down probably a lot faster because I've been doing it for a while. So there's a lot of different ways that you can help realtors help clients find more real estate deals. But
you would need to say is, you says, well, I want more rentals. Okay, how much rehab are you willing to put in?
Absolutely. Understanding your client's criteria. We have a whole class on that as well. Is really, a lot of times, even helping the investor narrow down their criteria. Because I would say 80% of the time they think they know what they want, but they've never really gone through all the numbers of what that would look like.
Right.
Yes.
You're going to touch on the fact that not all investors are really investors. And the fact that some of them, from my age, went to, they bought the Carlton sheets.
There's a whole thing about that too. Keep in mind, what we're going through today is literally about half of this full course that we typically do. And it's like one of 12. We aren't guaranteeing this today, so don't walk away with this. But one of the things we tell the agents that we work with directly is that you will find your first quality buyer investor in 90 days. If you do what we ask you to do your homework, walk through the steps, you will find an investor client within 90 days. That's the guarantee, but most of the time that's going to be a client for quite a few years. Yes, that's very true. Questions to ask and ways to find out that someone really is an investor would be a different course, but if we want to go through some oversights on that, we absolutely can. Number 2, find and lean on your strengths. One of the things that we always encourage you to find out right at the beginning is, are you a solopreneur? Are you a team person? Or based upon the season of life that you're in, am I right now, like, I'd much rather be a part of a team? Or right now, based on what's going on, I have the ability to like go be a solo person, like just get an idea and go after it. So that's what I'm going to do. Sometimes that can change, but ultimately that's what you want to start with. Am I more of a, I'm just going to go get it, I don't want to have to check in with anybody else or whatever? Or am I more motivated by a team? I'm typically more motivated by a team. That's the way I am. Ernesto is just the opposite. Remember, this is specifically with working with a client investor. Do you know the ins and outs of a property? Can you walk a property and maybe not be within $5,000? You may not want to actually give them a number, but can you walk through and say, okay, it's going to need some work. In the investment world, I know Roberto's going to know this, call it the big 3. How's the roof? How's the foundation? How's the HVAC?
Big 5.
Well, yeah, that's true. What else you got? Roof, foundation,
Electric
HVAC?
and plumbing.
True.
And I can swing a box open and unscrew one outlet and tell you if it needs to be rewired.
There you go. I personally wouldn't want to do that because we've had houses, the electric look fine, and then you get in there and there's one room that some guy 10 years decided to rewire himself with extension cords.
Yeah.
And you're like, why?
Yeah.
Why would you do this? Your baby's lived here, right? But basically from the outside looking in, right, you can tell the condition of the roof, foundation, you can see if there's stuff going on, or if there's something funky happening with the
I can also walk the
HVAC.
house and tell you if it's an inch off.
If it's, well,
You
okay,
know
so
why?
somebody needs to get her on your team. Being able to know the ins and outs of a property, how do you do that? Start working with somebody who does know it. Actually walk properties with a contractor, or go and start looking at properties. Like if you see a house listed for sale somewhere near you, go take a look. Just walk through and kind of make some notes, mental notes on like, it probably would need this, it probably would need that. And then ultimately, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but on your team, you should have at least 2 good contractors that you want to be able to meet on site. And you'll learn a lot by having a good working relationship with a contractor. Are you a comp savant? Somebody please hashtag that, comp savant. Make it your thing. I love it. But are you a comp savant? Like, are you really good at comps? Not like the science of comps, like the art of comps, and then also understanding what your investor's exit strategy is. Being able to look at comps from a different perspective. Not, will you be able to get a loan on this? Is this about what other homes in the area are selling for? But start to think, is what we're going to be paying for this house, will it be offset by what it actually is worth, what kind of rent you're going to collect, what kind of renovation we're going to be doing? There's a lot more in the mix when it comes to comps for investors. And again, a lot of that depends upon their exit strategy. Exit strategies. Who knows what an exit strategy is?
When you're ready to get out.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, basically, what do you want to do with this property?
Fixing and flipping it, buying and holding it.
There you go. There's 3 main exit strategies that most of your investors are going to fall into. One is buy, renovate, rent, refi. Okay, which means ultimately they're going to hold it long term, but they're willing to buy something that doesn't look so cute because they're going to have more equity in it in the long run. Okay. The next one would be fix and flip. You buy something, you renovate it, you put it back on the market for someone else in the retail world, most likely to purchase. Or finally, you have just basic long-term buy and hold. We're not looking to refi, don't want a whole lot of renovation, want to find a fairly solid property in a good rental area, and then maybe at the most do a heavy make ready, or maybe it does have some foundation issues. They're going to fix that, and then they're going to be able to
Paint and carpet and be done.
paint and carpet and be done. There you go. Those are your 3 main exit strategies for most investors. Then finally, and this is so important, guys, are you a closer? With investors, they talk to a lot of people, and a lot of people want their business, and a lot of people want their money. Like, you think that your residential clients have been called by like 5, 6 agents and Zillow's referral and everything else? Investors get hit up constantly. I get 5+ texts a day, and I just try to unsubscribe from as many email type things as I can. I got voicemails up the wazoo. When it comes to working on having an investor client, Are you a closer? Roberto, what do you think would be a good gauge for someone to know whether they're a closer?
Good gauge to know.
Like for an individual, like, am I a closer?
To ask for the business.
There you go. Are you okay asking for it? And not only are you okay asking for it, are you okay asking some of those other questions so that you know if they say, yes, I'll give you my business, that they really are an investor? Are you okay with saying, oh, that's awesome. How many deals did you purchase last year? What's the most money you've ever lost on a deal? Like, that doesn't seem like something you would want to ask somebody, right? Like, I don't want to know how much money you lost, but you need to know. And if they're a fairly seasoned investor, they're going to have that one story. City of Fort Worth screwed me over. We lost $100,000 in 12 months. Real story happening right now. How much liquid do you have? Who's your lender? Is there a bank that you typically work with? What if you're not a closer? It's okay. Get a team. Or just have a few specific questions that you're like, I know I can ask this, and most likely they're going to answer me. And then finally, are you a connector? A lot of times, connectors are closers. A lot of times, closers are connectors. But I would say, if anything, what I typically see, especially with real estate agents, because quite frankly, if you're a pretty decent real estate agent, you're likable. People like you. They like you and they want to do business with you. You're more of a connector than a closer. I see that more for newer agents. Like, at some point, you kind of like, I'm not going to get any business if I don't figure out how to close this. But if that's the case, that's okay. Learn to be a closer or team up with somebody who you know is a good closer.
Well, if you don't close anything, you're not really in business at the house.
That's true.
Right.
That's true. And it's going to take you a lot longer, at least, to get more business than if you do learn how to close. And then lastly, are you a leader? What does it mean to be a leader in real estate? Anybody?
I would say take initiative because
Yes.
no one is going
Ooh,
to.
you see that? I just got chills. She said you're right on. Yes, exactly.
You don't have anyone over you telling you what to do, when to do it, when to wake up, when to.
There you go. Can you lead yourself and can you lead your client? Because depending upon what they're doing, there may be times that you need to tell them, like, hey, this works. This works. Like, look at it. You're good with, you sure? We talked to the numbers. We've been looking for this for like 3 months. We're good, right? Okay, I'm gonna go look. It's gonna happen. Like, I think it's happening. Okay? That's how I talk. That's probably not how most of you talk. What's that?
It was very New York of you.
Oh, thank you. It's happening. But can you lead yourself, and ultimately, can you lead an investor client towards what they're looking for? And then finally, supplement your weaknesses. How do you do that? Through relationship. Okay, we're gonna go through this a little more quickly because, like you said, we could do a whole class on how to find good contractors. But these are the people and vendors that, again, 2,500 investor relationships that we've managed. This is what we think that you need. You need to find a couple of contractors. You need 3 types of lenders. You need to have your private money or hard money lender. You need to have somebody who's just a good basic conventional, whether that's like your favorite person at Rocket Mortgage who understands that this is an investment purchase, or somebody who's a loan broker could be a really good connection for you there. And then finally, a local bank. A lot of investors work with local banks because local banks will help them use the money that they have in real estate to buy more real estate. If you don't know of any good local banks that like to work with investors, you can ask Roberto, because I bet he knows some. You know, Jenna, yep, too, knows some. But you want to have that in your back pocket. So if an investor says, I'm just not liking these rates, this is transactional. Is there somebody I could build a relationship with? Yes, call Tom at Happy Bank. You want to have those 3 types of things. A solid appraiser. So much I could say about this. Typically, with residential real estate, your appraiser's job is to make sure that the loan that someone is getting, the amount that they're paying for a property, the property is actually worth that in the market. When you're working in investment real estate, you want to have an appraiser in your team because there may be times that your investor wants to bid on something, go after a deal, and you're like, man, that is so overpriced, and there's nothing else in this area that really has sold that's even similar. I have no idea what this 10 unit could possibly be worth that's way over in West Fort Worth. You can lean on your appraiser for that. When you're working with an appraiser in investment real estate, they're also going to have the understanding that, okay, I hear you saying that your client wants to buy this condo for $350,000. If he wants to get that loan from Happy State Bank, I don't think they're going to give it to him unless he puts down 40%. Why? Well, because the value of the property and the amount of rent that they're going to get is not going to add up. Or if you get to the point where you're selling properties for your investor client, something that they're selling. If it's a property that is only cash flow, that's something else that appraisers have to keep in mind. The property, the land value, all of that may be worth $2 million. But based upon the rents that are coming into this, going with the 10plex is worth $2 million. The bank is not going to tell you that that property is worth $2 million. They're going to say, no, you have to look at this as an income producing property. So your appraiser has to understand that. And if you can lean on an appraiser, especially like when you're selling a property, there may be times that people tell you like, that's only worth $500,000.
And I do want to clarify for
Yes.
people who are newer. In the regular retail MLS world, you never deal with the appraiser.
You don't talk to them. Yes.
The
Yeah.
lender has to be the one to order the appraisal, and it
Right.
goes into a system, and you don't get to pick the appraisal. That for the record. So do not confuse that where with like, so for example, she mentioned like one of the 3 lenders, Hard Money. Hard Money is a private lender that
Yep,
just has,
private money.
is willing to lend it out. They want to make sure that the property is worth what it's worth, but there's no rules really. If you get an appraiser, which is anybody that you want to go out and appraise a property, that's when you communicate with an appraiser. You will never do that with conventional FHA.
You don't.
If there's a unicorn property, and I've come across a couple, which means nothing has ever sold, it's brand new, last 10 years, everybody's lived there for 10 years, nobody's sold. So there's nothing to compare that to, because everything else is, single family, and they're all under 300, and this is $1 million neighborhood. I will do a pre-listing
Appraisal.
and just credit that back to the seller at closing, because that appraiser is the one that's gonna give us the number.
When you get the pre-appraisal, you know how it goes into the record for FHA or whatever?
There's a lot of different scenarios, but I hope that kind of brings home the point that in investment real estate, you want to have an appraiser that understands investment properties and even potentially your client's exit strategy. If your client wants to hold the property as a rental, he may say, yeah, I think you could pay this much.
And I will say, even with the appraisal side, you want to have more than, so I'll give you guys an example. Like we had a 7plex in Houston. I don't have any contacts in Houston on the listing side. And the company that's buying is using Hard Money. And they got an appraisal, and it came back short to the point where the Hard Money lenders were about to back out. So he calls me and he says, do you have an appraiser that you know?
There you go.
That you want to send out?
Yes.
I did it, but thankfully my seller did. We sent out another appraisal who did another appraisal.
Yep.
And it came in close enough to where we were able to close on the deal.
Yeah.
So it helps.
It does. And you have to also remember that appraisers are not hitmen for hire, right? Like they have licenses and they're accountable. In investment real estate, you can tell them what it's being used for. Like I have the full P&L. Let me give you as much information as I can so you can really come up with a good price for this. A solid appraiser, an investor-friendly inspector. Your inspector needs to understand, like, okay, don't go through there and point out like all this teeny tiny little scary everything. Like we know it's a rehab. Have an investor-friendly inspector that will walk through and not spend all of his time trying to tell you how, I don't know what, there could be termites. I looked here and here. And, like when you read those inspection reports, you're like, oh my gosh, it sounds like a horror house. What's the stuff that absolutely needs to be fixed because it's going to show up again? And then finally, a tax professional. Lots to say there, but you need to have somebody that you can, or some buddies. I would recommend a couple of firms that you can refer your investor to for their taxes, because buying, selling, depreciate versus expense it off this year. Here's a good question to ask, okay? Ask your tax people if they work with tax planning for real estate investors. Okay, that's a golden question right there. Do you have somebody on your team that will work with tax planning for a real estate investor? That means they know enough about real estate and taxes that they would be willing to sit down with them and say, what are you buying this year? How much are you planning to put into it? How much liquid do you have? What did you do last year? Let me see your taxes. Okay, based upon what I'm seeing, in order for you to maximize the amount of cash that you have that you're going to put into a property, this is what you need to kind of do with it. Does that make sense? So that's a good question right there to ask a CPA. And a title company. Your title companies that really work well with investors are going to be title companies that, if you get on like the Facebook group DFW Investment, right? Where people put all these random things. whoever the top 5 contributors are, if you went on there and say, who's your favorite title company? That person had better have done 10, 15 deals a month, right? Closed 500 deals in their entire career, whatever. Like, they better have worked with this title company long enough that they know when it goes weird, they can make it right. Okay. I mean, we've had title companies kill deals
Yeah.
multiple
Very
times.
much, very much.
So, and then finally, guys, navigate property management. You need to have a really good property management company so that when you guys have bought that perfect house, you can pass it off to Navigate and know that investment is going to be taken care of, and so is your client. Okay. Next steps. Please do follow us on social media platforms. Grab our little thing again. Follow us, like us, help us get everything out there again, because we want to get this to as many agents as possible.